Is a good year for Tunisia because we are net importer of oil, and the prices are down, so that will have a positive impact on the deficit in the budget. Years where the oil price is very high is more tough, of course, for us.
Economists predict that some North African economies, including Tunisia, could see between 5% and 6% growth with the right investment reforms. What sort of reforms can we expect in Tunisia?
A lot of reforms are scheduled in Tunisia. It started actually 2 years ago. We are reforming the investment code, and we are going to produce it and to give it to the parliament by the end of May. In fact, the government will do that. The investment code that will give the good rights for the investors, that will really have the incentives to the regions that are the poorest in Tunisia, and in fact to simplify all the procedures and less bureaucracy in the processing of investment in the country. There is a tax reforms, there is a custom reforms, there is a banking law reform, so there are a lot of reforms that are scheduled in the coming month in Tunisia. And of course we'll end that with a large conference that will introduce the projections for the 5 next years with all the reforms that are behind us. So really we hope that we'll build a land of investment in Tunisia. Tunisia is a hub. It's a small country in the size, but it's a hub that is geographically well positioned in North Africa, south of Europe, and North Africa, of course, globally.
You're in town for the IMF and World Bank meetings. Tell us how you'd like to see relations develop with the US and Europe.
In fact, the US, especially the European Union as well, the IMF, the World Bank, were really standing with us in the 4 last years that were very difficult. Tunisia, as you know, had a revolution in January 2011, and we had more than 8 governments exactly in 4 years, so political stability was not there. So now that we had election for a parliament for 5 years, a president elected for 5 years, so we have more political stability. We are now ready to build really a new economical and social development, and this organization and these countries, with also some Asian countries, with the Gulf countries, etc., will continue to be with us and maybe will improve and increase their support to us.
And how would you like to see relations develop with China? It's been over a decade since you all have signed economic agreements.
We are quite ambitious for all the world, especially for China and Asia and China. The Chinese companies, especially in the construction and all the infrastructure progress, are coming to Tunisia. They are looking to projects, and we'll have a lot of tenders, in fact, especially the City of Culture, where the Chinese are interested to build it, and they will be in competition with all the world. But I feel that they will be really competitive on that. We will have a lot of projects like the large port, where we have a lot of competition, but the Chinese will be there as well. Roads, infrastructure. We feel that all the construction companies, Chinese construction companies, will be aggressive in terms of capacity building, of course, but also in terms of financing.
Moving on to the terrorist attacks on the National Bardo Museum, obviously tourism was affected. To what degree?
Of course, it's starting to affect now negatively, of course. There's a lot of groups that, of course, canceled their trip to Tunisia. In fact, what is important is to see all what is done to fight against these terrorist groups. 1 or 2 weeks later, we've been able to, the security forces, of course, have been able to, in fact, take a group, and the group that was behind that, and they have been killed during an attack of security forces. We continue to fight against terrorism on the border, in the mountains, especially on the western border, but also we are taking into account that this is a global concern for all the countries in the region. All what's happening in Libya. Libya, for the moment, is not stable. Stability of Tunisia is linked to stability in Libya as well, but not just Tunisia. Tunisia, Northern European countries like Italy, France, etc. are concerned. Algeria is concerned. Egypt is concerned. It's a global.
Unemployment is still high. Young people who account for around 40% of the unemployed population. What's the strategy to get young people back to work?
The youth, in fact, the work, employment is linked to investment and project. I mean, we are encouraging, of course, all the small initiatives through microfinance, encouraging microfinance, but the large employer will be the large investors. That's why really we are putting in place all these reforms to encourage the investment in the country, the national investment, because it represents 80% of the investment, of course, and the international investment that today represents 20%, and we want to improve it through public-private partnership law, through several incentives, in fact, to attract them, and also rights to allow them to be comfortable with all what they find in any developed country.
Without job options, some young Tunisians are being recruited by extremists. What's the strategy to combat that?
It's a long-term combat, of course. We are looking to reassess the education program to bring largely more culture and sports in the program, because we lost a bit in that area in our educational program, to the family support and women's support, especially in the rural regions. So this is the long-term program. In the short term, we need to be more serious about handling what's happening in the mosques, how these groups on the internet, etc., on the social networks, they are recruiting, in fact, our young people that are desperate because they are not finding jobs, etc. So we need really to assess the marketing approach also, and to explain to the population that it's dangerous to follow such kind of groups globally.